iPad 2 might be the first electronic device that ever belongs to me. It was back in 2nd grade, a time when there were only desktop computers and bulky laptops. The simple user interface and vivid icons have completely refreshed my understanding of electronics. I was amazed by how beautiful it can be. The second iPad I used was the first-gen iPad mini. It took me through perhaps the biggest change in the history of iOS. From iOS 6 to flat iOS 7. I still remember the first time I saw iOS 7 on Apple's website. The exquisite animation along with Johnny Ive's attractive voiceovers. It all felt otherworldly.
That is coherent and that is applied across the entire system.
iPad mini was also the last touchscreen product other than cell phones that I have used for a long time. During the 5th year it was with me, the weak A5 chip could no longer run most of applications installed. After that, I have not had any experience with iPad for a while. During this period, iPad has begun its transformation from the original pure entertaining device to a productivity device. In a blink of an eye, it's 2021. The 2015 MacBook Air I use for school can barely last half a day, especially during virtual learning. The fans will just take off, so it's time to retire. In the meantime, Apple for the first time put a computer chip into iPad that's only 6.4mm thick and implemented a mini LED screen. These revolutionary changes gave me the envision that iPad has everything, and all it takes is the completion of iPad OS to become the perfect mobile learning and creativity center. I placed the order right after the Apple event. After checking delivery status countless times, on Wednesday afternoon, the package was quietly delivered at my doorstep. The first time I turned on the iPad, I was completely blown away by the 12.9-inch screen, with its swift response, gorgeous colors, and most importantly, the brightness. Turning on or off HDR for the same video can make it look like completely two videos. The increase in brightness and the darkening in shadow makes you feel like you're not staring at a screen, but looking out of a window. When looking at HDR demos, you can see the details in the white clouds, and the sun can almost hurt your eyes when staring at it. But the reality might not be so bright for HDR content. There are still so many obstacles for most content creators to create HDR content, including me. Even if I can, most social media don't have the ability to perfectly convert HDR content to HDR. A big reason why most video creators hesitate to deliver HDR videos. From my perspective, the halo effect of mini LED and the color shifting at the edge of the screen, which were often criticized when Apple Pro released, didn't really affect my experience that much. Except when watching an intro of a movie when there is a completely background with white captions or purposefully looking for it. Of course, I hope Apple can improve this problem on the next-gen mini LED. The problem should be barely noticeable to most people. The performance of M1 chip is impeccable, far smooth through 99% of the use. However, the M1 chip can rarely show its advantage in the current apps you can use on iPad, because the non-M1 iPad can just provide very similar experience. A few scenarios I can tell the difference are the AI function of Photoshop and Lightroom. The powerful neural network engine can greatly reduce the processing time. Also, noise isolation and portrait modes for video calls and online meetings improve my virtual learning experience a ton. No need to tolerate the shabby Google Meeting background blur anymore, when you have that nice, soft, clean camera blur. These two functions in iPad OS 15 doesn't sound like a big improvement, but they have a huge experience improvement day to day. Currently, two of the biggest improvements on iPad Pro 2021 can't show their full potential yet, but they are big power consumers. The power consumption of M1 may be extremely low for a MacBook, but it is fatal for the iPad battery. My friend's M1 MacBook Pro can last 3 to 5 days with light usage. On the other end, I need to carefully monitor my battery percentage and think whether it will last the whole day. It can be used for 8 hours with simple note-taking, but with a little use of some high-performance functions or applications, it can barely last 5 hours. The charger came with iPad is only 20 watt, while iPad Pro supports up to 35 watt charging, so the charging speed is also very painful. It takes roughly 3 hours from 0 to full battery, even slower than my old MacBook Air. If you want to charge at full speed, Only option is to buy another charger. Wow, so environmentally friendly. Oh, by the way, this charger is the perfect iPhone charger. At this moment, you buy an iPad for a perfect iPhone charger, buy a MacBook for a perfect iPad charger. There goes the Apple ecosystem. Another problem that exists since 2018 iPad Pro is the lack of Pro software. The long-promised desktop Photoshop is still not complete. Now Lightroom is the only software that I consider is relatively complete, although it is still nowhere near the PC or Mac version Lightroom. Nevertheless, I'm willing to endure all kinds of inconveniences to edit photos on this high refresh rate and high quality screen. As a crucial part of content creating, file management on iPad is a total mess. As a mobile device, most of the files are transferred through an external SSD, and files with hundreds of gigabytes are transferred without knowing the progress at all. Many times when the external hard drive is plugged in, there will be no response at all, but it will perfectly work on other computers. Moreover, many projects in apps can only be added to file application through Share, which is extremely hard to manage all the projects. And the most painful part is that iPad can eject external drive, which is quite crucial when using an expensive external SSD with footages in them. The only safe unplug option is to wait until the SSD light no longer flashes and remove the hard drive then. Apple promised an update to its iPad file system at this year's WWDC. I hope there will be an effective new update to it by fall. Audio is essential to a creativity device. Not only there is no high impedance 3.5mm headphone jack, which is even equipped with MacBook Air now, but don't have a headphone jack at all. In addition, Apple doesn't currently support any kind of lossless Bluetooth codecs. If you want to listen to lossless audio, the only option is the USB to 3.5mm dongle. Other than that, the quad speaker system is amazing. The only drawback might be the lack of a rich bass because of the size limitation. Otherwise, it is impeccable. Oh, by the way, this matte white Apple Pencil is also a super important part of iPad Pro's experience. Before I bought this iPad, I thought that I could learn to draw when I have this pencil, but I never started. It's the same as Apple Watch. If you don't exercise, you won't suddenly start exercising if you buy the Apple Watch. If you never paint, buying an Apple Pencil won't make you suddenly start drawing. But I didn't waste the pencil after the purchase. I use Apple Pencil with GoodNotes to do most of my homework, and that helped me save a small forest. Writing on iPad is rather a contradictory feeling. Writing directly on screen is not comfortable at all, because screen does not provide tractions as the normal paper does. The only option that can improve writing feel is the paper-like screen protector. But the problem that comes with it is that the screen protector will let down the quality of the screen. And one of the biggest reasons why I bought iPad Pro is the screen, so I have to pass the paper-like protector. So for me, writing experience is just fun, yet nothing like pen on paper. Apple Pencil is top-notch among all tablet pens, with barely noticeable latency, yet it's still very different from pen on paper. In some applications with excellent adaptation, it does have extremely low latency, such as built-in Notepad and GoodNotes. But the latency is not consistent across all applications, and this is the key reason why Apple Pencil cannot compare with a real pen. Sometimes I suddenly run out of ideas or having some problems that cannot be solved. I will open a note and scribble on a large piece of white canvas. This is a feeling that no other input devices can match. So if I had to choose again whether I would buy this pen, it would be a resounding yes. Perhaps this is the main reason I gave up the M1 MacBook Air. Apple has not updated this pen for nearly 5 years. If Apple will release the 3rd gen of Apple Pencil, I wish they can perform a weight reduction or lower the center of gravity to better simulate the writing feeling of a pen. Plus, adding some attraction to the screen will be very nice. Then this pen will truly replace pen or pencils. Time to talk about the camera. To be honest, I rarely use the rear-facing camera. In fact, for iPad, an ultra-wide angle plus a telephoto will be a better combo. Ultra-wide can be used with LiDAR, and the telephoto can take more crisp photos of whiteboard during lectures. Speaking of LiDAR, I feel that it is still in its beta stage. I only use it to measure distances. For high precision 3D scanning, the accuracy is not enough, and for other applications, LiDAR is not indispensable. The front-facing camera is unique. A 12mm ultra-wide camera coupled with center stage, which makes the video quality so much better. But why hasn't Apple moved the camera to the side bezel? I don't think many people will use the iPad vertically. Even if they are, they won't use it vertically during video conferences, right? And what's the point of putting it on the top? You may find that I have only talked about the file management so far, but files are just the tip of the iceberg. The theme of iPadOS is barely usable. Firstly, the animation of iPadOS is just too much, causing a sense of delay while using. Many people like the smooth animation on iOS, including me, but what the iPad needs is a cleaner, simpler, and more direct animation to assist faster operations. This seemingly smooth animation actually hugely decreases efficiency in daily use. Then, the system-level keyboard shortcuts have not been completely unified. Many apps still use their own keyboard shortcuts, which in many cases greatly reduce the efficiency. Of course, a large number of non-adapted software is also very troublesome. Many software that would have a way better experience on iPad is left with huge black areas or only in portrait mode because they are iOS only. Not even to mention the iPad version calculator that is still in my daydream. If Apple doesn't want iPad calculator to be a larger version of iPhone calculator, why can't they just adapt the already super useful and clean macOS calculator? It's already been done, just put it on iPad, that's all. The split screen system has updated to Stage Manager on this year's WWDC. Although it is still not the interface we were looking for. The window size cannot be freely changed. I mean completely freely, not in the way Apple wants it to. And there is a huge amount of space wasted, which makes it worse on the small iPad screen. One thing I appreciate is that finally you can put one app over another. That does save you some space. What we really need is interface with multiple desktops and multiple windows that can be arranged freely. The browser I use the most on iPad is Safari, which I believe have the most functions because Chrome for iPad does not support plugins and it's just not the desktop Chrome we all love. The overall experience of Safari is good enough for regular web browsing, Google search, and etc. But it's better to use a trackpad and the keyboard because they just save you so much time. Basically, you can see iOS on every corner of iPadOS. For example, the trackpad that Apple has always been proud of is not even close to MacBook. It feels like a Windows laptop trackpad. For example, the 3-finger drag and drop function that makes the trackpad comparable to a mouse is gone, and force touch cannot be adjusted as well. In my workflow, iPad takes the role of recording ideas, review my videos before upload, photo editing, note-taking, and online classes. But most of these don't even need an iPad Pro. We always say that iPad Pro should be different from the base version of iPad and give some real pro functions that can utilize that powerful M1 chip. Although Apple gave their attitude this year, the direction is completely wrong. What we want is not to remove the functions regular iPad deserve to divide the product line, but to add real pro functions to the Pro, such as Final Cut Pro and Xcode. The reason I didn't buy Magic Keyboard has a lot to do with the reason I buy iPad. I want the iPad to be a modular mobile workstation. It's not like a laptop, but more like a desktop. Because the Magic Keyboard had a very big compromise on typing and trackpad experience, far worse than a laptop. Another big problem is shining. According to my friend's experience, not only the keyboard is extremely easy to shine, but even the trackpad, since it does not have a glass surface that most trackpad does, at least not before 2021 version. I want a more comfortable input experience, especially can't stand working with a shiny keyboard and a trackpad. So only choice is Bluetooth keyboard. To this day, I'm still experimenting with the perfect setup. This process is long and painful, but it also brought so much fun. When I find the perfect setup in the future, I think I will make a video to share my result. That's all about the productivity side of iPad Pro. How about entertainment? This is what iPad has been known for. Well, it is almost perfect. It supports HDR and Dolby Vision, plus the great quad speaker setup. The reason it's not perfect is the screen ratio. The 4:3 ratio is amazing for web browsing and note-taking, but it is a big disadvantage when watching videos. The pixel count for the screen is lower than 4K when watching 16:9 videos. The pixels located in the upper and lower black area are all wasted. Watching movies or 18:9 ratio content is even worse, which only uses about half of the pixel. God, my heart is bleeding. Okay, maybe this video has more criticism than compliments. We all know that iPad Pro has so much potential to it. There will always be a larger version of iPhone before Apple gives it real desktop software and user interface. The ideal iPad Pro in my mind will be like an Apple version of Samsung DeX. In iPad mode, it can have a very simple and direct interface, and when I need productivity, an iPad can transform into a desktop like DeX. From 2011 to 2021, from iPad 2 to 2021 iPad Pro, 10 years later, everything seems changed. Nothing seems changed. Well, this should be the longest review I have ever done. Thank you very much for staying to the end. If you have any thoughts on the iPad, you're very welcome to leave them in the comment area. Alright, I will see you guys in the next video. Bye.